I had a discussion with Deval, the Indian lady who looks after the Australia and New Zealand Get Set Up launch, and she
okay, yeah,
and she also looks after India, and
does she live here or in India?
no, in India.
Yep.
Yeah, and so yes, she had a conversation with me, just talking about how we're going to move forward, and she also had a separate conversation with Sue, and that led to some, on my part, some interesting thinking, that discussion, because it was just she was talking about the classes that I'm currently doing. I'm doing a lot of, as you know, other than 2, I'm doing 12 classes. So 10 classes are like what they term technology, social media apps of different things like YouTube and so on. And she was saying she wants me to sort of move away from those technology apps, and she quizzed me about, you know, what I like and what's my life about, and which it sounds, I've never in my life had anybody sort of in business, or let's say senior to me in business, that have been so caring and so interested in, you know, wanting to be part and parcel of the solution, as opposed to being a dictator. Anyway, the long and short of it is that she was suggesting that I do more business classes, okay, which is right up my alley, okay. And she said, I suggested, what about some alternative health? But I've stopped using the word alternative now, because it has implications in people's minds, okay. And so I'm still looking for another word, so you know, on my website already about an hour ago, I changed my alternative health to my journey of health, okay. But I haven't got another word for alternative health, and so if you have an aha moment, please just share it with me, or we can.
Well, it's more like natural health, isn't it?
Ah, there you are. You see, I knew that you had. That's a lovely one. Hey, you're a star. Natural health. Okay, we can stop brainstorming now.
Okay. Well, catch up with you on Wednesday.
Okay, but anyway, I was still getting to the point that I hadn't got to yet from that discussion, and it made me think that I don't know how long ago, but you and I set out to do a course and training, and with Phoenix Rising. And then we for whatever reason, and we did have reasons, I think, clearly, that we stopped doing that, okay. And now I've got to create some classes that it's like an opportunity that, like you and I were talking about. Now, I don't want to do, she suggested like a series of 5 classes, okay, with people who reach their senior years, sort of over 55, and but up to 70 and 80, and they feel they can't get back into business, and they you know, they feel insecure, they feel inadequate, they feel they don't have what the youngsters have got, and so on. And she was suggesting that I change that. Now, that was absolutely the right thing to say to me. But it made me think now, you know, maybe we could go back, you and I, to talking about what we were originally talking about, and then from that information, I'll be able to build my classes that get set up, but we might also be able to take a step further forward in what we were originally doing or wanting to do. Okay. And anything that I develop, I have proprietary rights to it. Doing something like that might well stimulate. That's an issue, but something else. It might, by doing something like that. But also, I do realize from the last recent number of conversations you and I have had, that your focus really wants to be on sort of how to with the spiritual, okay, to use my terminology. And so just touching sides, I mean, if you feel that we should carry on our discussions in that way, then that's fine, okay? If we want to take a break and do the business side, then I would be grateful too. So, but
well, I don't know how you can separate them really, but because it's a bit like when you go out and dig in your garden. I mean, it's a spiritual process, and like I had this sort of, you talk about aha moments, on the back of our conversation last Wednesday. I was just reflecting on, like all the work that you were doing in your garden and that sort of thing. And I guess some of the comments that I was making through that remote viewing, I think it was the carry bag on it. And it just sort of occurred to me that, the powerful spiritual moments aren't going to come from being able to read someone's mind or communicate to someone through mental telepathy. The powerful spiritual moments come from, well, in your case, the joy of digging in the soil and attracting birds and creating a wonderful little natural eco environment. And in my mind, that's a million times more powerful than, me working out that, that you'd put a picture of a compost bin in an envelope. So.
You're not going to forget that one.
but you know what I mean? Like, so the joy and passion and the energy that you get out of doing those things, I know you, and certainly I, for my part too, get out of it in terms of anything we turn our mind to, whether it's discussions about, contemporary business arrangements or how people could, turn their mind to being entrepreneurial. My context, releasing their creative spirit. So yeah, absolutely. So let's
all right,
talk about whatever we need to talk about. So
okay, that and I 100% agree with you. We've got to clearly, and we will, come up with a spiritual solution to building a business. Okay. And one of the main aspects is the attitude of the business owner. Okay. And the intent of the business owner. So those things, yes. But
I mean, I put a couple of notes down here, ironically, but not surprisingly, for a friend who's struggling a little bit in an organisation down in Melbourne at the moment, and she sort of said to me, and we're having a conversation tomorrow, so this is sort of preempting that a little bit, I guess. But the invitation was like, so just tell me, like, what's important for businesses these days. So I did a list of 5.
Okay.
So basically, I just sort of said, and this is on the back of pandemic and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the sort of
across the world. Yeah.
So it was, like, and I've numbered them 1 to 5, but it sort of I mean, they're not really any important than the other, but it's you know, they're there anyway. So if I just run through the list, if with your permission, yeah. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's super.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. Yeah.
Well, not at all, but but anyway, it was like number one I've written here: cultivate your organisation's capacity to adapt. So if there's one thing that the pandemic, for example, has taught lots of businesses, is they need to be flexible and adaptive and responsive, you know. So when you think about, you know, it doesn't matter which part of the world you're living in at the moment, but if you think about, you know, the year that we've had and the realization, you know, in a general sense, that economic recovery is going to be slow to arrive in a broader sense. And that as we do recover, the reactivation is going to sort of come in fits and starts. So organizations are going to need to be flexible and adaptive. So flexibility in the face of change, I guess, is a good way to couch that. And the other thing, I guess, on the back of that a little bit is, you know, last week, you know, like we're still wearing masks when we go out of the house at the moment. So, yeah. but a lot of people are very fatigued about it, and they're very, you know, oh, when's this going to end? Blah blah blah. Well, the fact of the matter is, it's here and it's here today. So, if that's what's here today, then that's what we have to deal with, you know. So, stop projecting in the future too far, but deal with the context that we're living in at the moment. Number two on my list was make the most of digital opportunities, you know, so and that really fits very nicely into the back of what you've been doing with Get Set Up, about giving people insights as to social media apps and networking apps and all of those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that a lot of organizations have learnt in the last 12 months through necessity is that you don't all have to be in the same place. You know, you can develop, you know, business relationships and partnerships and so on, operating on the opposite side of a country, for example.
Right.
Third point on my list, and it's sort of more aimed at medium and larger organizations, about, although I suppose it still applies to smaller organizations, is like maintain a solid and well-aligned team. You know, so, and what I'm sort of saying there is, you know, the team's commitment's a key success factor for any organization at any time. But when we can get confronted with, well, something like a pandemic or something else that comes over at the horizon at us, it could be a health issue or it could be a financial challenge or whatever, you know, it's important that, you know, the team shares the vision and work together in a cohesive way to work through whatever's turned up.
Right, right.
And if you look back at what a lot of leaders of organizations have done in the last 12 months, interestingly, many of them have decided that they've got to communicate intensely and be closer to their team, closer to their employees, which, on the back of the comment that you just made about the lady Get Set Up, you know, it's not a directive thing. It's about, hey guys, we need to have a conversation. We need to tap into our collective wisdom here about these things.
Right, right.
Number four on my list is combining the short and long term. So again, on the back of the pandemic, if you think about it, the focus of a lot of leaders came down to the here and now, whereas the traditional role of a leadership team is to steer the ship in a more strategic sense. So where are we taking the ship? What's the thing that we want to do in the next 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, or whatever planning horizon that they might want to have. So in the last 12 months, though, I think a lot of leaders have become very hands-on operational people out of necessity, like managing cash flows and supply chains and all of that sort of stuff. But I think through the recovery process, the need to rethink roles and responsibilities outside of the traditional framework is going to be an ongoing thing. You know, yes, there's going to be an important need to go again, keep the eye on the horizon as to where we're going and how we're going to get there. But I think there's also a need, particularly through an uncertain environment, and I think uncertainty is going to be the new normal for some time, at least anyway, probably all the time really, then they're going to need to be flexible about, where necessary, coming back and being hands-on or developing the team in their capabilities so that they have faith and trust in the team to deal with some of the unexpected without running to them and say, oh, what do I do next? You know, so some of that, those sort of things.
Yeah.
And the final thing on my list of 5 was instilling a sense of purpose. So really having open conversations about the why. You know, why are we doing this? Why is this an important priority? You know, so really fundamentally, you know, tapping into the power and the importance of that question. And I think that the answers out of those whys will not only bring focus and unity and all those sorts of things, but I think it'll also help identify opportunities. You know, as organisations sort of, you know, navigate their way through, you know, what's been happening. So as I said, for me, like when I wrote that, the context was very much around on the back of, okay, where are we at today and where have we come from in the last 12 months? Because it has been quite unusual for businesses right across the globe in that respect. And I think if you sort of get your head around those sort of 5 points, then it's very easy for you then to delve into a lot of the traditional planning processes around structure, roles, responsibilities, accountabilities, governance, you know, all of those sorts of things flow out of that fairly quickly. And I think it also invites people to think about what's important for them as they participate in a business environment, which, you know, could well be, you know, like that digital distributive sort of model that we've been canvassing. You know, what does that mean in terms of my life? You know, all too often, you know, work has shaped people's identity, you know, and how they see themselves. But I know even from my own perspective, you know, like work is only just one sort of little part of it. I mean, there's other priorities that I have, which I would consider to be of higher priority. But a lot of traditional business owners would be, you know, horrified that my work is not my number one priority in my life. So, and I think that as a contemporary business leader, you know, you should also be mindful about developing the whole person, not just another form of slavery.
Yeah, I like that. As a matter of interest, what industry is she in? Retail or manufacturing?
Manufacturing, yeah. So the business is a well, it's like the last, I think, Australian-based paint and coating manufacturer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Based down in rural Victoria.
Okay.
Family business. I think 3 brothers run it or something, and therein there's a lot of family politics and tensions and divided opinions, which inevitably flows out into the business as well. So
yeah. Very interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that. That certainly sort of puts down an aspect of let's take one back step to somebody now who wants to start out. You know, those aspects are important to consider that you've mentioned. It's part of the planning, I guess. Once you, let's say you know what you've gone through the phase of, well, this is what I want to do. So you've got an idea. Now, this aspect, would you agree, sort of fits into the planning phase before you launch out and spend?
Yeah, I think it also makes it a very practical approach, because there's no sort of, a lot of traditional business planning has been quite theoretical.
Yeah,
you know,
we've had that discussion, haven't we?
Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Whereas this is really like, no, that why question drives every single one of those points, you know. Well, certainly did in my mind when I was writing them.
Yeah, interesting. We had somebody, or the owner of the property that we rent, sent an evaluator in. So I said to him, does the owner want to sell the house? And he laughed. No, you would have sent in an estate agent then. He said, no,
Oh, okay.
You want some more money.
Oh, okay.
Business. So yeah, it's still that old thing, assets. You can borrow against your assets. Okay.
Yeah.
So
probably wants to buy another house. Yeah.
Probably. And but the point is that it's also part of our discussion that we've got to be looking at, which we tried to look at a year or two ago, you and I, and that is, what are the options of as far as financing concerned? Are we ready to sort of launch out into something totally different?
And that's going to be a really important part of your course material, because a lot of the potential participants in that course may now have access to like superannuation funds and retirement earnings and a lot of equity in their homes and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And there's some big decisions at play there, because if something doesn't work out, it could well mean that your lifestyle is fundamentally changed going forward, because maybe you don't have access to the retirement earnings that you had planned to have. Or if you're relying on equity in your home, what does that mean? Potentially, passing on debts to your children or something. I mean, I don't know.
Without a doubt, that is really, really a serious aspect that we've got to get our head around that. Okay, and I've certainly got to get our head around that, because I wouldn't want to lead people, and I do not want to go on historical statistics. Okay, which will be brought up because the potential attendees of the class, or the potential business starters, they will have all that junk in their head from the past. 90% of first-time businesses fail and things like that.
Yeah. And I think even that sort of broad brush term about they fail. Well, I think there also needs to be a conversation about what does failure look like. So.
Yes. Yeah. And then it's assuming now for this conversation today. So they've got an idea. They've sat down and done the planning, that using those 5 aspects that you've talked about. We've then designed a finance approach.
You don't have to use those aspects either, by the way. That was just coincidental.
I know. I gather that, but I think it will stimulate both of us. Maybe for you to even add more value to your friend, and likewise for this class, which ultimately could also be something for you and I. Okay, and so then after the finances, okay, now we've got the finance, we launch. Now comes the new way of marketing. Okay, and in my writing, I don't know where I got the word from. Going back now 3 years or more, I used the one word, new sell. Okay, and I read it today for the first time in one of my blogs on my website, while I was sort of just fumbling with my website to put something about microgreens on it. And so yeah, that's also an interesting. And then of course the growth, because the launching and getting past the launch phase is a phase. Okay, then comes a whole new phase, as you know, of course, of how do we grow to sustainability. Okay, so that's another aspect that needs to be part and parcel. Let's just assume when she liberally said, or glibly said, 5 classes. Okay, they've got to be very simple and for me to understand, and then for me to communicate it. So, sort of maybe 5 stages. And that could be all that gets set up once, but maybe you and I would want more out of that. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And so we would go further than that. And so it would be something that I would really enjoy driving. And
oh, you'd be perfect at it. Yeah, perfect at it.
Yeah, yeah. So I would like to, and because, as you rightly said, maybe even corrected me at the beginning, it is spiritual. The whole aspect is spiritual, has to be. Okay, and we need to, you need to trip me up if I'm, heading in the wrong, but you do anyway. I don't even have to tell you, if I get off the track. Yeah. So I would like to continue our conversations along this line, and I'd like to. Oh, by the way, I mustn't forget this. I was going to tell you right at the beginning. I couldn't get our last conversation uploaded onto what's our latest one? Not YouTube, the other one. Okay.
Oh, Rumble.
I tried for 24 hours. Okay, and I was having issues, and then I thought I was going to just check in with you. I think, quite honestly, I feel we should go back to, or with our conversations, should go back to our Phoenix Rising on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you haven't been black banned or labeled an e-terrorist or anything like that. So
I was punished for a week. A week after that, I wasn't a terrorist anymore.
Okay, so you were just sin binned.
Yes. I had to go to jail, directly to jail. I wasn't allowed to pass go. Yeah.
Very good.
So.
So you've fully reformed now, are you? So.
Yeah, fortunately, it had nothing to do with Phoenix Rising, but I suppose my name connected there as well. But it was my own, but still. But anyway, I don't know. I wanted to touch base. I don't know whether you finding it easy to get things done on.
Well, I've only uploaded, I think, 5 or 6 videos, but I had the same experience as you did, is that it took a long time. I didn't have like 24 hours, but like where YouTube might have taken, say, 10 minutes, this one was taking like half an hour.
Yeah.
So like it was almost like a factor of 3, so.
Yeah. So I thought, my thinking was we just leave Rumble there with our accounts, okay, with the stuff, or from my perspective anyway, and Phoenix Rising videos. We leave the stuff that we put there, and then we go back to Phoenix Rising on YouTube. Okay,
I think so too, and like with the Rumble stuff, I mean, it really is skewed quite heavily towards, viral oriented videos. So if something crops up along the way, there's nothing stopping you. Like they're not mutually exclusive or anything.
No.
So if there's something that we think we need to pop in there that might broaden our reach, then hey, we'll do it. So,
yeah. And I agree. We can also post on both, the same things on both. Okay. So you just use the second last category on Rumble, which and that's it. So I listened to a video a week ago, by chance. Actually, I was actually looking for something else. I got this guy that makes his money from posting videos. That's it. And he makes, according to the figures, and he was getting more and more fed up with Rumble. Okay, even though they start from scratch with money, he's still making more money posting the same things on YouTube. Okay. You and I, it's not about money. We need 1,000 viewers or subscribers before we had to start making money. But that's not why we're doing this now. We're not looking.
No.
We really.
We're not generating videos as a product
No.
to generate income. No, not at all. No.
Yeah.
It's a means of communication. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's almost like a journal that we're documenting and putting up there, and knowing that they will stay there. And then we can take links if we wanted to, just to build up subscribers, but that's not the main purpose. I think
no.
I want to get our act together. So what I thought, as what I started this afternoon, in fact, after lunch, and that was I want to, in order to be able to put these classes together, okay, I want to be doing sort of now that we've identified, in fact, 5 phases that would be appropriate, it's sort of dabble in all 5 at the same time, you know, in the sense of researching, because I know the one thing when they need to read to the link, and then I don't want them to be exclusive each side. So there must be this enormous overlap. So I thought of, now I don't have a product to sell. I thought, well, let me create something as if it were a product I was selling. Okay. So I thought of microgreens. Okay.
Yep.
You know, I've got a class on microgreens. I grow microgreens. I'm very keen on microgreens, in fact, for health purposes, for senior people as well. So I thought, okay, so let me pretend I'm selling microgreens, maybe whatever, okay? And so let me look now at the various social media that fit in. As you rightly say, I've been doing a lot of different social media for the classes, and I've already got a feeling of where people go for what, okay? So I thought, well, I'll sort of lay it all out bit by bit, and maybe even create some 5-minute videos in order to remind myself of what I've just, you know, agreed on, or you.
I think so, and I think keep it as practical as possible. I mean, and like using the microgreen thing, for example. I mean, I don't know if there's a fruit and vegetable shop nearby, but I mean, you know, if you get to a stage, maybe you might want to just float the idea. Or how do you feel about, you know, having a few containers of this available there or something? I mean, I don't know, you know, but just make it as sort of like real life practical as you can, and that way it'll bring up real life obstacles and opportunities and stuff like that, you know. So
I like the idea, but it's microgreens are very, very time intensive. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I could never do something like that. I could do it full time if I wasn't preparing and running classes, and that if that was all I was doing, then, but no. So I just wanted to sort of have something. I couldn't actually, I can't imagine myself necessarily selling something, you know, unless I went back to something that I don't like supplements or something, you know.
Well, the other thing is the toys, you know, so.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I don't have toys. Toys for boys.
No, it wasn't what I had in mind, but anyway.
Anyway, I'm just going to, it's really just a form of connection, you know, which social media really is logical to connect with that one, which will benefit somebody who's planning, where should they sort of host their planning phases, their thoughts, and then their launching, their marketing, you know. And
I think your microgreen example is probably a really good one. I think it's a really good one, you know.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Okay. So
because it is a good example of something that someone who has got some time, and not that you're sort of saying, oh, go and do this, but it's something which would spark an idea to say, oh yeah, I can think of, you know, whatever along those lines, you know. So
because I think one of our discussions needs to be the class that I already run, okay, and that is to come up with an idea. Okay.
Yep.
You know, from your subconscious, or what you were born to do, or something that that course is up and running at the moment, and so maybe we could have some more input into that, and maybe one of our lessons, I'll take you through my slides, and you know,
sure,
what I do, and then we can add something and build on that as well. Or maybe say, maybe that should be part of phase 2 or step 2 or something like that. You see?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea.
That'd be super.
Great idea.
Okay.